I am Elisa, founder of the Girl We Thought Project, and this is the Women Leaders Project.
Hi, my name is Elisa Camahort-Page. I'm the co-founder of BlogHer, and this is the Women Leaders Project.
The Girl We Thought Project. Our mission is to help young people redefine the way that they think in order to achieve their life's vision. It's not enough to say I'll be successful without addressing the how. We help with the how, through the building of roadmaps in order to achieve your life's true purpose. So, success. What is it, right? That's the big question. How do I achieve it? What is it? How do I make it work for me? Well, in my working with youth, what I decided to do is create something that they could remember, so that no matter what they're doing, that they can understand that success is achievable. And how do you do it? You date. I know, it sounds crazy, and I don't mean to date each other. What I mean is you decide that whatever it is that you want, that you'll get it because you'll be willing to work for it. That you acquire the knowledge that it takes to get there and then take action using that knowledge. And then T, tackle every obstacle, because there will be obstacles. Lots of them, be prepared to tackle them all. And then E, every day do something
Together, and it was we call it our blind date. And at the time, the mainstream was just beginning to pay attention to blogging and social media, but all of the people that they were pointing to and linking to and using as sources looked pretty much the same. In other words, there weren't a lot of women being cited in the New York Times when they were talking about blogging. So Lisa said, I had this idea, what if we did a conference that was just like any other tech or blogging conference, but all the experts and speakers just happened to be women. Do you think anyone would be interested? And I not only said, well, I would be interested, I would go to that. I said, you and I should just do that. Why don't we do that? And she said, okay, and I said, okay. And we didn't form a company. We weren't a nonprofit. We weren't a for-profit. We just decided to do this thing. And along the way, we discovered that putting on an event is actually a lot of hard work.
Yes.
So I had met Jory Desjardins, my other co-founder, sitting next to her at a conference and just networking with her for 45 minutes. And I said, well, let me see if she wants to help. And she did. And so the three of us did this. 120 days later, after announcing we were going to do it, we had this conference. And it was only after the conference that we were like, wow, there's something here. There's an opportunity. There's a community. There's a lot of women who are looking for something, some way to take advantage of something like blogging that they had discovered that they loved, but that they were also good at.
Okay. So, wow, so you not only did you use the resources that you had, but you also went and sought the help of other resources. That is something that is super important because a lot of times we forget collaboration is what you're supposed to do. Okay. So then now let's talk about the A. So acquiring the knowledge it takes and taking action. So now from where you started to here, how did you acquire the knowledge to even get started in what you're doing?
Well, this goes back to even getting into tech in the first place. I was not a tech person. I was a liberal arts major, and I got into tech because I lived in Silicon Valley, and it seemed like that was what you ought to do. But I asked for help, and I wasn't afraid to ask the stupid question. Actually, opposite of what you might think, when you're the one who will say, I don't understand, can you explain that? Everyone else in the room thinks, you must be pretty smart if you're willing to admit your ignorance. Because most of us try to hide that. And we sit there and we nod our heads like we know what's going on. But every time I ask a stupid question in a meeting and the person starts to answer, I can see everybody else start to write notes.
Down. Yeah.
So, but the other thing is that you ask for help and you share your idea. So many people say, oh, I'm working on something, but I don't want to talk too much about it. I don't want anyone to steal my idea. And I always say, someone already has your idea. There really aren't that many new ideas, but what I can assure you is that the person who succeeds will be the one who executes it the best, who implements it the best. And you'll never be able to be that person if you don't get feedback and you don't find out. You don't find out what other people think of the idea, and if they've tried it before, and if they have some insight. So I'm like, be totally free with your idea, as long as you're convinced you can be the one to do it the best.
That's super smart, because I was dealing with a client of mine, and they said the same thing. I don't want to share it with you yet. And my thing is just like what you said. But how will you know unless you talk to someone to see, is it even a viable idea? So, okay, that's taking action once you've decided. So then now, tackling every obstacle. What are some of the ways in which you've tackled obstacles, or an obstacle that you've tackled yourself, and how did you overcome it?
Well, one of the things I think is really important, especially when you're working with partners, is that if an obstacle happens, if a mistake happens, if a problem arises, bring it up quickly and honestly and get it out there. Because that's another mistake people make, is they're like, oh, I screwed up, I'm going to fix it. So no one has to know. So, and they don't bring it to the collective brain power that you have in your corner, and they try and fix it. And in fact, first of all, if you end up having to ask for help and people find out that you tried for a while to tackle it on your own, you're eroding trust.
Yes.
They don't know that you weren't honest with them. You know, when there was a problem going on, you didn't share it.
Yeah.
But also, you're not taking advantage of the bigger brain power. So one of the biggest pieces of advice I always give is it's super easy to have all the fun conversations. Oh, what's our vision? What are we going to do next? You know, what do we want to achieve? It's not so fun to have the hard conversations where, hey, this didn't go the way we planned. What are we going to do about it? But those are the ones you got to have quickly, honestly, and right away.
Okay, so in everything, be honest. Mistakes happen. You're not going to always be perfect, but still be honest, because you and I together can do so much more than just me apart or even you apart.
Right.
Okay. So then now, every day do something. What is it that you do every single day to get closer to what you want?
Well, every single day I have a whole routine of checking in with different communities on the web that are part of my larger community. And I check in on what they're talking about and what they care about and what is activating them. It doesn't always mean I'm going to act on it. It doesn't even mean I'll do anything with it. But if I'm truly saying that I want to lead this community and be part of this broader community, then I have to sort of understand what's making them tick right now. And so I have a sort of routine of going through and checking in all these places and all these little sub-communities on the web. It can be overwhelming. A lot of people know they have to use the internet for their business, and they know that they're supposed to be on social media, and it can be overwhelming. But you just have to sort of carve out and assign the time. I don't do it all day, every day, but I carve out a specific time every day that I'm doing my check-ins with all the different leaders of all the different sub-communities within the larger community of women online.
So you're basically making sure that in your industry, you know what's going on.
Yeah. What's happening?
Yes, you know what's happening for sure. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is super smart, because if you're going to be the best in anything, you kind of want to know what's going on in your world.
And it's not just the facts, but how do people feel about it?
Okay.
So, you know, I can know that there's this news story going on, or I can know that this event happened in the social internet space, but what does my community feel about it? What do the different factions of my community feel about it? Because there's always more to the story than just the data is great, but understanding the context and the frame that data lives within is how you can take action and have some sense of expectation of how that action is going to be taken in and appreciated or not appreciated by your community.
Okay. So then now, throughout this process in building your brand and establishing and the collaboration and the mergers, how is it you've been able to be so successful? Have you had any mentors who helped you along the way? And if so, who are some of those mentors?
Well, actually, when I first got into tech, you know, I've had quite a few male mentors, because technology is, you know, still, and certainly 20 years ago, was quite male-dominated. And, you know, what's interesting is I always talk about, think about mentoring in thin slices. A lot of times the concept of having one be-all, end-all mentor, it's daunting for both the mentor and for the person who wants a mentor. Like, how do you ask someone to fulfill that role? And if someone asks you to fulfill it, how do you make that commitment? So instead, think about, I don't have to have this one person be everything to me. Gosh, they're smart about that thing that I want to learn about. So I had one boss who was not a hugely technical guy, but he was a wheeler and dealer and business guy. And so he kind of let me sit in on conference calls and meetings that I really had no place at my level being in those meetings, but he just wanted me to absorb how negotiation and business deals happen. So he mentored me on that. He could never have mentored me on the technical aspect. Meanwhile, I had another boss who was pretty junior as far as managing, but he was technically brilliant, and he's the one who actually really taught me about the fundamental technologies that my company was working on. And so, you know, he wasn't the be-all, end-all. And so, you know, if someone asked me to be their mentor and had some big, broad ask, I would have trouble saying yes because there's a lot going on, you know, that's a big commitment. But if someone asks me for, I mean, just the other day, I met with someone for an hour. They had a very specific thing they wanted to talk to me about and get my advice about. We had lunch together. She said it was super useful for her. It was really easy for me to do.
Okay.
And I'm sure she's probably going to contact me in a few months and say, oh, can we do that again? I wanted to update you. And I'll be like, sure. She said, will you be my mentor? I would say no. So think about it in thin slices, and have multiple people who each help you get better at the multiple things that go into being a successful person these days. You can't be good at one thing and be generally successful. You have to be good at a few things.
So a jack of all trades is kind of what you want to be. So master some of those things and play to people's strengths.
You know, and it's different if you're an engineer versus if you want to be in marketing versus if you want to be in sales. But typically, you're going to need to know something technical. You're going to need to know something sort of process and project-oriented. You're going to need to know something about people. And you're probably going to need to know something around communications and articulating, you know, how to get what you need. And different people can be good at different aspects of that. They don't have to be good at all of it.
Very true, very true. So then, okay, so with what you've said with your mentors, if you could go back and mentor yourself or say anything to your younger self, what would it be?
Well, I think I would say what I have always said to myself, which is that you are not what you do. You are who you are. So this, I would consider this to be my fourth career or industry. And every time I took a turn, I just said, okay, I'll try that now. You know, and I think the thing that I was always telling myself is, if this doesn't work out, I'll try something else. Like, you know, I'll give it a shot, and hopefully it works, and if not, then I'll go try something else. And so I would stop. A lot of people are super hard on themselves, and they're super afraid of like failure. And I'm like, but failure is kind of inevitable. And so, you know, what's your fear really? Most people let fear be super abstract, and that fear of failure, and they don't know what that means, but it would be bad. And I'm like, well, what would it mean? Oh, you'd have to get another job, or you'd have to try another, you know, thing. And
it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. I say that all the time. It's probably not the end of the world. And if it's not the end of the world, you should totally go for it and try it. But really spell it out. Be concrete. What are you afraid of, and what will happen if this fails? So what? So what if it fails? So what? And usually the answer is, oh, not much. You know. Oh, that wasn't so bad. And you know, and I just think people get really afraid, like if they pick a path, when they make a decision, like that's the last decision they ever get to make.
You can change. I tell people, you're not a tree. You can change.
Yeah, you make another decision. So that didn't work out so well. Okay, well now let me try that route. You know, so.
That's super important, because especially when working with youth, the number one answer as to why you didn't try is because I didn't want to be wrong or I didn't want to fail. So to say that it's not the end of the world, you can just make another choice. Okay, so then the last thing.
Yes.
If you could describe yourself in 6 words, using only 6, what would it be?
I will always get it done.
I love that. I love that. No, you were, oh, that was quick too. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is now I'm going to adopt that. Okay. So thank you for that. Yeah. Because I like that. And no one's said that yet. So I'm going to adopt that. So when you hear me saying it, this is where I got it from. Just be okay with it. But as we're closing up, I do want to remind you, every single day, remind yourself and remember that no matter what has been, you get to create what will be. And every single day, remind yourself, I am possible simply because you are.